every person's going to be different. Every business is going to be different, but the fundamentals are pretty much the same. But that person, the business owner themselves, they have to go through like a time audit, which means like they have to understand what they're actually doing throughout pretty much every hour of every day.
Welcome back to the Outsourcing and Scaling Show. My guest today is Abby McClain. Abby, how you doing today?
I'm doing awesome. Awesome. How are you?
I am doing great. Really excited to talk to you. I know you're all about systems, all about processes, all about team building, which is what I'm all about as well. So it should be a great conversation. For those of you that don't know Abby, she's an agency owner, a systems coach. She's a full-time digital nomad for the past year. She helps overwhelmed and burnt out agency owners get their time and life back through systems and team building. And she was just telling me before this that she just invested or she just started to focus her time on a new startup. So we're excited for her and we'll talk all about all that. But first, let's take a gigantic step back. What were you like growing up as a kid? Were you a straight A student? Were you a rebel? Did you always know you wanted to be an entrepreneur?
Growing up as a kid, I was kind of like a goody two-shoe for a while. I really like followed the rules, but I blame that because I'm the youngest. So I watched all my older siblings get in trouble for everything, and I did not want to get in trouble. So for a long time, I was like a goody two-shoe. And then college hit, and I kind of went crazy, and I started bartending. And then after I started kind of like breaking the rules of society and seeing that like there was other options, I literally dropped out of college my very last semester. I have 120 credits. And then I went into learning how to work online. I took tons of online classes, taught myself all the skills, started working for free, worked as an assistant, and then that just progressed and progressed over the years.
Awesome. I can't believe my phone went off. That's actually never happened. I'll edit that out. They'll never know. So you're learning all this stuff online. How does that transition into being an agency owner? Because there's a lot of people that go in that direction. They start working for another agency. They start freelancing. They start going into a different business endeavor. Why an agency?
So I kind of got into the agency space almost by accident. I actually started out as a blogger, and I was a part of these really awesome masterminds. I was learning from some of the best bloggers online. I got some content published on places like Goalcast, and it was like super cool, but I realized that people weren't really generating a lot of money in blogs. And I like saw that there was this piece missing, that there was something missing. And it was really kind of that marketing. Like there was no understanding of like business structures and value ladders and how to pull that all together and, you know, make money from it. So I started diving really deep into that. And then I just got hooked on marketing. I started kind of doing the whole freelancer thing. And I really wanted to be a digital nomad. And I realized like, if I'm just freelancing all the time, people were white labeling work to me and stuff like that. But I just saw that if I really, really wanted to have the freedom that I want in my life, I couldn't always act as a freelancer. And I had to start being able to step away and bring other people in and kind of build that bigger system that was bigger than me.
So what did that look like? What did year one of bringing other people on board and not just do everything yourself look like?
It wasn't great when I first started, that's for sure. Kind of didn't have any idea what I was doing. I didn't really even know what SOPs were at the time. I was just like, I need this done. Help me do this. Bringing in other freelancers and then starting to find other agencies that I could white label work to was like a big one that I could just be like, well, I'll be the face of this. And then I have other trusted agency owners who I know that I can have them do all the back end work. That was the easiest way because they already have their systems in place. You just toss the work to them. But now I've come into this place where I really like finding VAs or freelancers that I can basically hire. I don't have anyone on full time right now because the jobs, like I keep them in their specific zone of genius. So if I have someone who's like a really great graphic designer, I'm not going to ask them to come and like do all this other stuff for me. Like I think what's really been important is keeping people where they perform the best. And when you do that, you really leverage the genius in each person and you see your business grow from that.
So what do you look for in a hire?
I look for someone who's definitely like a self-starter, people who will take the initiative. I know like it sounds kind of weird, but like some people will just ask you so many questions when they could just do like a quick Google search and find the answers themselves.
The ability to figure stuff out. It's so key.
Yeah. So I'm like, okay, granted, like your SOPs should be good. Your person should understand like their role and what you're asking them to do. So you need to make sure that like your communication is good on the front end. But then there's also like little things where like, well, people will come and ask you questions and you're like, if you literally did like a 1-second Google search, you would have the answer to that. So
Right.
that is, I'm like, I look for people who will take the initiative to try their hardest to problem solve themselves.
I love it. Do you have any bad hiring experience, any nightmare story that you could share?
Uh, I white labeled to an agency one time and it was just like not a super great setup. Like the clients were really not happy with the results, but then I was like, I was white labeling it. So I was kind of like confused at like where to go because I had to take the responsibility for their lack of like doing things correctly. And then I was like trying to teach them how to do their job correctly. And it was just like a really mess. So that's pretty much the worst thing. Nothing too bad. You know, I've had people come in where it's like they say they're going to do something, then they don't do it. But I usually would never outsource something if it's like desperately needs to be done like the next day. So yeah,
Right.
nothing too crazy.
So are you hiring more followers to follow your system, your process? Are you hiring more specialists, like people who are really good at that one thing that maybe you're not good at? Are you hiring more experts or maybe white label partners to do things that you just don't do or you're not good at and you don't want to have a system for it? They already have that and they're bringing it to the table.
I would say right now I'm hiring more specialists. So I definitely have like, you know, for the agency, there's the back end, the ads, and there's the front end, like our ads, and there's the customer service. And then, you know, there's all these different pieces that you can break your system down into. And I don't want one person who's like, oh, well, I do your customer service and I do your cold calling and your cold emails and I set up your ads on the back end. Like, I'm like, no, I don't want that. I want you to be really, really good at the thing that you do. And then the whole goal would be to get so many clients and ramp that up. So maybe when you first start, that person's only working 10 hours a week for you or something like that. But then once you get more and more and more clients, you know, now that person has a full-time position and they're amazing at what they're doing because you've just been like, this is your zone of genius. I want you to be the best at this.
And your agency is completely remote, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So
sorry, keep going.
no, go ahead. I am pulling onto a new agency right now, and I have 2 partners, and we're all completely remote and pulling this agency together, which this project just started a couple weeks ago for this new agency. And the goal is to go from 0 to 100K months in less than 6 months, all remote, all staff are remote, everything.
I love it. Any tips for working remote and keeping strong communication, staying productive? I know I'm completely remote, so I'm pretty good at staying focused, getting stuff done, communicating. But I think there's a lot of people that struggle with it. There's distractions. You got the TV right there. You got your refrigerator, and then just communicating with people in different parts of the world and different time zones that have other clients. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah. So the big thing for me is I really like finding an environment where I can get into like an easy flow. So if you're going to be entirely remote, you know, when you first start traveling, you might be like bouncing around and backpacking and doing all these crazy things. You're going on adventures all the time because you're so excited to be traveling. But the key is really to say, like, what does it take for me to have an easy life somewhere? Like, you have to have good Wi-Fi. You have to have a good work environment. You have to be able to get good sleep. You have to have access to healthy food. Stuff like that that's going to keep you kind of like at like performing at a peak level, because traveling is exhausting. Like, it's exhausting for your brain, it's exhausting for your body. So you need to make sure that you're taking like the right steps to still perform as an entrepreneur and like be able to show up and, you know, limit yourself. Even though we all work for this freedom and we want to go out and do whatever we want whenever we want, if you're in the middle of a startup, if your systems aren't built yet, if you're still needing to like put in those hours, like, don't spend all these random days saying yes, 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 yes to everything when you're traveling. You have to learn how to say no and prioritize that time and those adventures. Like, a lot of time when I was in Colombia, hanging out with a lot of entrepreneurs on there, you know, the weekends we just go do all the crazy stuff. But during the weekdays, you know, we just go to co-working spaces, and that would be our solution. As far as communicating, like, that is going to be different for everyone. But I would say, like, you need to have a good like team management or project management software where your whole staff is in there and the communication works for everyone. A lot of people are using Slack lines, and you can even put like a Slack bot in that will tell you the time that every single team member is on. So if I put like, hey, meeting at 10 a.m. for me, it will tell everyone what time zone that is for them. So that's really helpful with like worldwide communication.
What tools do you use? I mean, you mentioned Slack. What other tools, software, any communication channels or project management stuff that you can share?
Yeah, so I kind of am a huge systems nerd. So I actually like cheat on all project management software with other management software because I like to be proficient across many platforms. So that way, when I'm doing coaching for agency owners and I'm helping them build their systems, I need to be able to look at all the stuff they have going on and see like, okay, this system will work best for you. Right now, my biggest, like, I'm really a fan of Asana and Monday.com. Like, those are my two, like, go to for pretty much everyone. I'm like, you can pretty much organize and make a system out of like these two tools for pretty much anyone and anything. And it's really cool. Like the team communication in there is great, very visual, really nice and easy to lay out. And they connect through like Zapier to pretty much everything. So those would be my recommendations for people.
Can you describe the difference between maybe Asana and Monday.com?
I think Asana is quite a bit more powerful. Like on Asana, you can actually do subtasks, which can make your organization like more layered. So like if you have one task and you look at it and you have all the subtasks under there, sometimes that can make things a little bit easier and it's a little bit more of like a list view, I would say, where Monday is literally in my mind kind of like idiot proof. Like you could log on to Monday.com right now and understand how it works. You might not know every single feature ever, but you would very easily be able to set up like very visual systems that are very easy for a team to see. And you have like a beautiful overview. So you can see all the moving parts of everything that's going on. That's great. Like if you have big projects that, you know, you have the whole team working on one big project, that's a long-term project. That's like, it's beautiful to come in there and look at. I'm a huge visual person, so it's great for me.
So you said that you're all about systems, you're all about processes. You work with other entrepreneurs. What are some common mistakes you see, and what do you teach people to do that might be a better practice?
So one of the biggest mistakes, I mean, usually the foundation of all my clients that come to me is that the business owner is bottlenecking their own agency. So they're still too involved. They haven't stepped out enough. They haven't built the systems to do that. And the biggest systems that they're generally messing up would be onboarding. A lot of time the onboarding process is kind of like interesting. Maybe they're not asking all the right questions. Maybe they're not training their clients correctly. So they're not giving their clients good boundaries of like how to contact us. Like what channels can you contact us by? Like if there's a problem, what do you do? Who do you talk to? And even in agencies, there's like this thing where it's like you bring them all these leads and then the client is like, all these leads are crappy and nothing's happening. And you're like, I just brought you over 100 leads every month. And you're telling me all of them are bad. Like, I know that that's not true because I know that if I call them, I'm going to turn something up. So there's this disconnect happening. And I'm like, well, that's because first of all, you're not training your client how to convert the leads. And second of all, like you're not training your staff to go the extra mile to help your team or to help your client convert those leads. So there's still some weird areas in your system that like you need to address that because that's going to kill your retention rate. That's going to like your churn rate's going to be very high and it's going to cost you a lot of money to keep pulling on new clients if at the end of your first contract you're losing your clients.
Yeah, I completely agree. It's funny. I teach my assistants like, hey, this is what you can Viber me at like after hours. This is what a big issue is. This is what a small issue is. This is what the team leaders are for. If they're 95% of the stuff they can handle, you don't have to come to me. But if this one thing happens, like don't leave it for tomorrow. Make sure that you tell me. So just getting on the same page with what that extracurricular communication looks like, I think it is so important and so huge. When you're dealing with someone that's just super disorganized, they're all over the place, maybe they have a team of different people, how do you even begin to organize it? How do you break that down?
So the first thing that I generally do with everyone that I work with, because for me, it's not just about the business, it's really about the business owner. Like I have a really personal connection with the people that I coach. Like I meet with them every week when they're in my programs. Like it's really about them and their ideal life. So every person's going to be different. Every business is going to be different, but the fundamentals are pretty much the same. But that person, the business owner themselves, they have to go through like a time audit, which means like they have to understand what they're actually doing throughout pretty much every hour of every day. And that's usually where I start people. Because if they're just all over the place, they don't know really like what's broken, what's working, what am I doing? I'm working 60 to 80 hours a week, but I don't really see where all those hours are going or like how this is working. So a time audit would be like, generally there's two different ways. I have a task filter that I use in my program that's pretty much like, hey, every hour set a timer on your phone and then go into your task filter and write down every task that you did. Another great way that you can do this is using Toggle. It's a time tracking app that's, it's a lot of the time for staffing so that staff can track their hours and what they're working on, and freelancers can use it as well, but you can use it for time tracking. So if you stop and you eat for 30 minutes, you can go in Toggle and just press start. And then when you're done eating, press stop and be like, I was eating, lunch. And then at the end of the week, you can go through and be like, oh, I spent this much time sleeping, this much time eating, this much time working on proposals, this much time dealing with clients who are angry. And then you get this good picture of like what you're doing. And when we start there, then we can be like, okay, cool. What can we delete? What can we automate? What can we delegate? And start actually building out those systems for the business owner.
I love it. What about team building? I mean, how does someone really build that culture that's efficient and productive?
When it's remote, I definitely think it's a bit harder. I think the team communication, when you start hiring, really getting having conversations with those people, having the SOPs in place, and building that culture is really being a leader. So you want to give your team everything that they can to win and to succeed and to have open lines of communication. So not this I think some people have this culture of wanting to micromanage everything and look over everyone's shoulder and make sure that people aren't aren't wasting their work hours or whatever, because you're paying them, so if you want to make sure it's not wasted. But I think that culture kind of breeds mistrust and breeds kind of some resentment. So really empowering your staff and using the right language to empower them and say and I go through this in my program as well, the exact language of each different delegation level. If you want someone to make decisions for you, or if you want someone to do research and then bring you the research, if you want someone, to do research and then give you their best option and try to convince you on it. And then if you tell them yes, then they can go ahead and do it. So there's so many different layers, and you really can empower people by telling them, hey, this is exactly what I want you to do. And so many people kind of miss that.
Yeah, I completely agree. I think people get so caught up in I want to use Time Doctor and watch their screens and make sure that every second is productive. But that's just, like you said, it just breeds distrust and makes people not want to work with you. They always feel like they're working over their shoulder. They're not going to be as productive. They're not going to be as creative. And I mean, I have 50 VAs in the Philippines. I don't have time to go through their screens. I build a certain level of trust. If they're not doing what they should be doing, it's not going to take me very long to figure it out. And that little bit of money that I save is not worth the entire mentality that I'm pushing on them across the board. Would you agree?
Yeah, 100%. Because to be honest, a lot of time when we're hiring VAs anyway, we're saving ourselves quite a bit of money using VAs rather than having an office and having a staff come in and all this. And it's the marginal money that you might lose if your staff watched a YouTube video for 15 minutes rather than doing the work. It's so small and marginal in comparison to having them be in a good mood, a good attitude, want to be a part of the team, want to actually build your vision. That's the big thing is it's having people come in and care enough about your vision and where you're trying to go. That culture of this isn't just about money. It's not just about me. This is the mission of my company. These are the changes we want to make in the world. Making it about something bigger, I think makes a big change.
Completely agree. What else did I miss about building an agency, about systems, about team building?
Oh man, I don't know. That's a hard one because I feel I see so much all the time. There can be so many different avenues. I think a big thing that I want to warn people on is if one person's I have this one system and it's, one shoe fits all. This is 100% guaranteed. My system's going to work for you. You should be scared because everything's different. Everyone's different. Everyone's goals are different. Your company mission is different. And don't believe just because everyone else that you think is doing it one way, that's the only way. We're entrepreneurs because we want to be innovative, because there's always different ways to do things. There's always ways to improve. So when you start working with your systems and stuff, don't just settle because, oh, well, that one person told me that this is the right system. Use your brain, figure out your KPIs, and, start working towards those things.
Completely agree. This has been great. Where can people find out more about you, and what are you most excited about for the rest of the year?
So I'm most excited about, two things, but really my coaching program, because right now it's in beta. So it's super, super awesome. we're doing a lot of testing. So when someone joins the beta program, they have to do a happiness test, they do a stress test, they do a productivity test, we do a time audit on them, because we're taking all this data at the beginning of the program, and then we have you repeat those tests at the end. So literally, like, this program, we're going to be able to say, like, we saw a 30% decrease in stress over the course of this 12-week program. That everyone can check out kind of what that's all about. It's at bit.ly/work less and make more. That's pretty much like, it's literally just a Google document right now because it's in beta. So you can go through, read what the program's about, who it's for. It's for 6-figure agency owners who are burnt out, overwhelmed. Other than that, until my website is up, everyone just finds me on Facebook, has conversations with me on there. And that's pretty much it. I'm so like packed full right now of like starting a hopefully 7-figure agency within the next 6 months. And then this beta program, which is like my baby that I love. And I love my clients that are in there, and we have our little private group, and like, we're just nerds in there.
I love it. Well, have a great rest of the weekend, and we'll be in touch.
All right. Thank you so much.